There's certain ones that they can turn light. I'm okay with that. Although I think Justice League would be really good as dark, and all that. But then you got the Avengers and things where they can make it dark, but at the same point a little light too. So it's the contrast of perfect. But there's certain ones I would personally love to see, as dark, gritty, very violent. And of course, Wolverine being one of them. The X-Men itself needs to be darker, especially with Magneto.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, there's some pretty heinous things that Magneto has done. I mean, it's tough because you're talking about the genre that you want, to a certain degree, you want to be able to take your kids to. If my son, was old, a couple of years older and could sit through a movie, I probably would have taken him out of Wolverine after the first 5 minutes of the movie. And I just, as a dad, I would not, be comfortable having my son see that amount of violence. I have no problem with him going off and watching any of the current X-Men movies or almost any other superhero movie that's out there, but I draw a line. And this is the type of genre with, sci-fi and comic books and stuff that I want to be able to share with my son. And as a parent, I'm not comfortable with, that to a lot of degrees. Is my son going to be able to sit down and watch Deadpool with me? Absolutely, when he's about 35 years old. And I feel the same way about Wolverine at this point. I don't want, as a dad, I don't want the comic book movies to get so dark that I'm not going to be able to take my son to him when he's ready to actually sit down for a 2-hour movie.
Fair point. And I see your side, but at the same point, I think we need the comic book world they're gaining fans, but they're losing fans. It is a very fickle, genre. We all know that, and they need a little bit of that dark grittiness to bring, people back, to bring people in, and unfortunately, that is just the joys of the business. Like
the big thing here is we're talking about a genre that has been successful. So with success comes overuse, and in a lot of cases, we're talking about a genre that's become extremely watered down. I'm trying to remember who actually went off and said it might have been. I want to say Steven Spielberg, but I can't remember who it was. But there is going to come a time, and I completely agree, where we are going to go off and we're going to see the superhero movie go the way of the cowboy movie.
I don't think with recent developments that's going to be as much of a case coming up. I do agree with Weem here. He says now might be the perfect time for a Venom movie. And not, Spider-Man 3, featuring what could have been the Venom.
No,
but the actual Venom.
Dude, let's not talk about that version. I'm going to end up banging my head against your wall if we talk about that.
I would like to see an actual legit Venom movie, or even a rebirth of Spawn. Do Spawn the way Spawn's supposed to be.
Okay, and I'm not going to bother looking it up, but the creator of Spawn has went off and has stated that the only way we're going to go off and see a Spawn movie is if he is allowed to write and direct.
And I say everybody needs to get behind that, because if he can do it, he should do it.
And again, considering the success of Logan, considering the success of Deadpool, if you guys who want, dark, really violent comic book movies, this is the time. This is the time for them to go off and to do a proper Spawn movie and do it justice.
Yeah, I completely agree. Now, before our time is up, unfortunately, let's bring up the kind of the elephant in the room. Let's talk about where Wolverine goes from here. What does Fox or Marvel or do with Wolverine? Do they find a new actor to play him, potentially, possibly lose tons of fans? Or do they move a different direction and say maybe retire Wolverine completely and have another Wolverine-like character come into the picture?
Considering how many other characters that they could go off and they could do. As you brought up, they could have X-23, become, the new Wolverine type character, go off and do movies like in the future when she's grown up. I mean, they could go off. They could bring in Wild Child. They could reintroduce Sabretooth.
I would like to see a legitimate, properly done Sabretooth.
And oh god, I can't remember what his name is, but Wolverine's got a half-breed son who, is like a huge villain. They could go off and they could bring him in as well. There's so many ways they could do it. Personally, I mean, I've been hearing rumblings about Fox wanting to just go off and just completely reboot the entire X-Men franchise. God forbid. But I think the most creative way I've heard of them, reintroducing Wolverine is having the new actor playing Wolverine in the Deadpool movie and having Deadpool kind of go off and, break down the fourth wall and make fun of it. That might be the latest way to go off and to do it.
It could be, but I do think what you're going to end up seeing a little bit more of is possibly the introduction of the, I want to call him X Factor. Now, I may be completely wrong. I know there's an X in there, but I believe it's actually X Factor, where it's a bunch of genetically mutated children with, superpowers now because of the program, which is the same program that the girl in Logan was part of.
That's not giving away anything.
No. We all know there was... But anyways, so that's kind of the direction they went in the comic books. And Cable, who is a time traveler, time shift, whatever you want to call it, was actually, their leader. So I think that's what you're going to see. You're going to see some of them, make appearances in Deadpool.
And I think that might actually be the best way to go off and to do it. You and I, while we were on the music break, we both came up with one kind of conclusion. The only way they really should go with Wolverine is not to do Wolverine.
Yes.
Wolverine should be retired as far as you and I are both concerned, at least for the time being, a minimum of 10 years.
Yeah, I think when you did such a beautiful send-off for such an iconic actor playing such an iconic character, the only way to continue that epicness and continue that respect and love for such a character is to not do it anymore. Because if you do another, Wolverine so soon, you're going to ruin what that movie was. This is a movie that could potentially be, not just a box seller in the movie theaters, but when it comes out on DVD, it could be, the highest looked movie, highest bought movie, highest, watched. There's so many things that this movie could be that if you even think about introducing a brand new actor as Wolverine, you are going to kill any momentum that you have started.
And as sick as this sounds, guys, if this movie had came out 6 months ago, there could have been some Oscar buzz on this. And I'm saying that strictly because it was a really emotional, really well-written story. I went off and go back in the archives, listen to some past episodes where we've discussed Logan. I have went off and I stated that I was completely unsure I even wanted to go see this movie. My wife, had to convince me to actually go see it, and I know she did not like it. She actually, at one point, she almost walked out because of the amount of violence, and I completely would have understood it if she had. But I was blown away just how wonderful the story was, how well everything was written, and just everything. As someone who has messed around with, writing stories and is taking courses on it, just everything was just so well written. I was absolutely blown away by it.
Yeah, and it's sad because the only real reason I actually saw it was because you forced me to have a weekend off. I couldn't stand sitting here looking at the fact my computer was pretty much mocking me. So I decided to go see a late night movie, and it was the best decision ever. This by far, for me, was 5 out of 5 stars. There is no question there.
Oh. God, 5 out of 5 just doesn't do this movie justice.
No, it really doesn't.
I'm going to have to give it 5 out of 5. I mean, this is by far the greatest comic book movie.
You know it was the greatest movie when we both give it the highest honor. 5 out of 5 stars.
This is probably the only time we've ever agreed on this.
And
except for maybe Star Wars, The Force Awakens.
Neither one of us have ever given a movie 5 out of 5. Not even Star Wars has attained that honor. So, this is the most fitting and iconic way to send off, Hugh Jackman. Yeah. It's been a wonderful career, and I will never see Wolverine the same again. But unfortunately, we are going to have to end this show, and it feels,
for a makeshift show, this has actually been pretty good.
Absolutely, this was kind of a show put on at the last minute after some technical difficulties.
At the last minute, 20 minutes later than we normally go on the air.
Yes. But yeah, we put it together. We made it work. I think some awesome discussions went on here. And definitely some food for thought. Like if you're out there and you are really kind of curious on the Deadpool teaser, go out and watch it. Pay very close attention to what's in the back. Like, it's very important what Deadpool himself does and says, but look at the background. The background is the money. There's no other way to say that.
There's probably YouTube videos. I mean, you go on YouTube, you could go off and see the teaser trailer.
Yes.
And then you probably can go on there and probably see where they go off and they break that teaser trailer down, frame by frame, and show all the little spoilers.
Yes, I'm going to have to see that, see if it would actually, coincides with what my theories are and what my thoughts are. I love the fact that we have so many different ideas for one little teaser, and it was only 3 minutes, and we're still talking about it.
He was still talking about it, and again, and Stanley actually made a joke about how he was cut out of the theatrical version of that trailer. But then I've seen they did another version of the trailer where he goes off and he gives Deadpool the thumbs up and Deadpool tells him off or something.
Yes. I do have to say, though, if you are a person who swears, there will be many parts in the movie where you will want to scream out loud the most vulgar swear words you can think of. Trust me, I did. I had my entire row and area in the movie theater laughing. But thankfully, there was about 4 of us who actually swore at the exact same time. So that was awesome. I didn't feel so alone anymore.
Anyways, guys, it's time for social media. So you can follow us on Twitter.
You can follow me on Twitter at RealCaptFizz, so at RealCaptainFizz.
You can follow this local fellow at That Mask Guy. Follow the show at Fizz Mask Show. You can go find us on Facebook. Search up the Captain Fizz and the Masked Man or Mask Guy on there. You will often see a bunch of images. We actually went off and shared some images from Blinking Fiend, who was supposed to come on the show with us tonight. So you can actually go off and check out some stuff. You can actually go check. There's, of course, a link to his Facebook page, so you can go check out some of the stuff that he's been up to.
Go check him out. He is our master builder. He builds things I couldn't even think of.
Yeah, and I mean, we have a friend who we'll call Eagle. He goes off and what Eagle does blows my mind the way of Minecraft. And that, and just this much more with what Blinking Fiend has accomplished is I can't imagine.
Yeah.
And of course, go off and check out our website, www.bizmashow.com. And check out all the great stuff that Captain Fizz has been doing on the website, trying to get everything up and going. And you know what, guys, just check us out all over social media. We are going to go off. We're going to post that map that just shows where everything is going to be.
Yeah, we're
at FanQuest.
So you can definitely come down and check us out at our table. It's going to be awesome. We're going to run live shows. We're going to do lots of talking. And I mean, lots of talking.
Lots of talking. And we don't have any show scheduled for next week as far as our topic or a guest. We will go off and we'll make that announcement later on in the week. We are in the midst of trying to make a couple of decisions on this and working with a couple guests to see if we can get someone to come on.
Yeah, our phones have become very, very busy. It's awesome.
So, guys, it is time for us to go. So, in the meantime and in between time, good night. God bless. May the Force be with you.
Stay frosty, everybody. Good night.